Alright, part 4, Lesson in Destiny. Awaken the Giant Within, Anthony Robbins. Part 4, Lesson in Destiny. Alright, chapter 26, the ultimate challenge, what one person could do. A mighty flame followeth a tiny spark, Dante. He knew he must stop them. With mere $800 in pocket, Sam LeBeau drove across the Mexican border, stood on fishing docks on the sideline, and waited for his opportunity, toting a video camera to get some of the home movies of the excursion he had posed. A naive American tourist offered his services as a deckhand engineer to each captain who docked his boat in the harbor. He was hired by the Maria Luisa, a temporary crew member of the Panama Tuna boat, pulled away from the Mexican coast. The boat began secretly filming the activities of the crew. He knew that if he were discovered, his life would be in jeopardy. Finally, it happened that he was surrounded with a whole school of dolphins, known to many as water people, jumping and chattering with them near Maria Luisa. The friendly nature had drawn them into the boat, and little did he know that they were also being drawn into their death. The fishermen trailed the dolphins because they knew that yellowfin tuna usually swim below the playful creatures. With cold-blooded calculation, they lay their nets in the path of the dolphins, not noticing even a caring what happened to them. Of course, 5 years later, LeBeau's video recorded the horror, one after another, dolphins being entrapped in the nuts, unable to free themselves and coming for the surface for the oxygen they needed to stay alive. At one point, the captain bellowed, "How many in the net?" And the boat swung. The captors slaughter in the video. Captured the slaughter on video. He heard a crew member yell, "About 50." The captain ordered the crew to haul in their catch, and numerous dolphins lay strangled lifeless on slippery deck as the crew separated from tuna discard their sleek gray bodies, and eventually the corpse of the magnificent animal was tossed overboard and casually as the sacks of garbage. Labad's footage gave clear-cut evidence what others had claimed for years, that hundreds of dolphins were regularly being killed. Single-day fishing expeditions estimates over 6 million dolphins have been killed in the last 10 years, edited down to 11-minute format. LeBeau's video stunned the viewers with the heart-wrenching reality of what we're doing and was to be intelligent and affectionate beings with whom we share our planet. One by one, outraged customers across the nation stopped buying tuna, launching a boycott that only gained speed, but the media attention became more pointed. Just 4 years after LeBeau first captured the tragedy on film in 1991, the world's largest tuna canner, StarKist, announced that it would be no longer packing tuna caught in pursuit of cyanide nets. Chicken over the sea with the bumblebee seeds filed suit and issuing similar statements just hours later. While the fight is not over, the unregulated foreign tuna boats will still kill 6 times as many dolphins as the U.S. boats. Lombard's day with the Maria Lucia has served the catalyst for major reform in the American tuna industry, saving the countless dolphins' lives and undoubtedly helping to restore some of the balance of the marine ecosystem. Alright, every man is an impossibility until he is born. Some of the people that reveal for the powerless and insignificant what comes to social issue world events, thinking even if they don't even did the right thing over their own personal life, that the welfare would still be at the mercy of the actions of the field, beset with the proliferation of the gang warfare and violent crime, perplexed by a massive government deficiency and SNL crisis, saddened by homeless and literacy, overwhelmed by global warming, relentless extinction of the other species whose lives on this planet. Some people fall into the mindset of thinking, even if I get out my own life and then lives my family in order, what good will it do? Some nut in a position of power could just accidentally push the button and blow us up all up anyway. Kind of belief system fosters the feeling of being out of control and potent, creating change with a significant level that naturally leads to learn helplessness, typed by paraphrase, why even try? Nothing could be more crippling to a person's ability to take action with learned helplessness, with the primary obstacle that prevents us from changing our life and taking action to help other people change theirs. If you come this far in this book, you know without a doubt with the central message, you have the power right now to control how you think and how you feel and what you do. Perhaps for the first time in the power to take control of the master shift, to unconsciously guide you until this point with the strategies you the distinction you have gained with the reading, doing, and exercise with the book, awakened with the conviction that you are truly the master of fate, directly of your destiny. Together we discovered giant power of the shape's destiny decision of the other decisions about the focus, what things mean, and what to do with the decision that determines the quality of the present and future in no time, as to address the power of joint decision to shape the destiny of the other community or control or world will determine the quality of life for the generations come with the quality of the decisions we make today about how to deal with such current challenges, widespread drug abuse and imbalance of the trade and effective of the public education, shortcomings of the prison system. By fixating everything that is not working will limit our focus for the effect of neglect the cause of the problems, failure to recognize the small decisions you and I make every day will create our destiny. Remember, all the decisions are filed with the consequence. Everything we make of the decision consciously with other people, with the other factor of the environment to do the thinking for us. Act without least anticipation potential effects, so that we may be unwittingly perpetuating the problem we dread most. By trying to avoid pain in the short term, we often make decisions to create pain in the long term. We arrive further down the river, we tell ourselves the problems of the permanent, unchangeable, with the come with the territory, probably the most pervasive false belief most of us harbor in the fallacy that one of us or someone superhuman act will have the power to determine the problems around. Nothing could be further from the truth of life as cumulative. Whatever results we experience within our life, the accumulation hosts small of the decisions we made as individuals, as family, with the community, as society, and as a species. The success or failure of our life is usually not a result of the one catalytic effect or event, earth-shaking decision, although sometimes it may be looked that way, rather than the success or failure is determined by the decision we make and the action we take every day. By the same token as daily decision and actions, each one of us will take the responsibility at the individual level to truly make the difference in such manners, whether we'll be able to take care of the disadvantage, whether we can learn to live with the harmony with our environment in order to bring them about massive, far-reaching changes. Both our individual joint destiny is necessary to commit ourselves to the constant, never-ending improvement into the discipline of the can I only when I truly make the difference that will last long run. The ultimate solution, what does the purpose of one common element with the problem faced with today, with the nation as a world, with the soaring numbers of the homeless people, the escalating crime rate, with the huge budget deficits, slow down, strangulation of our ecosystem. The answer for every single one of these problems we cause with set in motion by human behavior. Their solution is that to every one of these problems, the change of the behavior that requires the change of the way we evaluate and make the decision, which is what the entire book is about. We don't have the drug problem, we have the behavior problem, teen pregnancy with not resolved with the virus. The consequence, specifically behavior, the gang war is a behavioral problem. Even nuclear was ultimately a behavior problem, or the decision to build bombs for the other decision will eliminate them. All of these problems are the result of the action that people have chosen to take. For example, the individual gang member, the single decision set in motion with a whole series of the behaviors and problems. With a new gang identity, he told himself with a very specific code behavior of the places, almost value of such things, loyalty for the group that are out of the flows the whole system, the characteristics, rules, and behavior, the global example of the long-term effects of our decision, chronic famines, food shortage of the take lives, and so many around the world healthy organizations have proven the possible to feed every man, woman, and child of the earth. Yet every day 40,000 children die of starvation. Yet obviously we have the producer of something has gone terribly awry, and not only with the way of the food is distributed, but with the way our resources are used. What's great about all of this, for the good news, once we realize the root of all of the problems, behavior, the decision process we've initiated them, we know that we are the ones who change. As you've learned in this book, one thing you absolute control over is for the internal world. We decide with what things mean, with what to do about them. And as a result of the decision, take action for the impact of the external environment, with the actions each and every one of us can take into our homes, our business, our own businesses, our own communities, that will initiate the change for the chain and specifically apply with the consequences. Without our actions, we communicate our most deeply held values. With our actions, we communicate our most deeply held values and beliefs. Through global influence for the mass media, even the simplest action will take with the power, influence, move with the people to all of the nation, will sound with encouraging with the human race. You make asking yourself what one person can do but to make the difference for the world. Leave virtually anything, only limit the impact of the issue with the imagination, commitment, history of the world, simply chronicle what was happened to become with the TV, the small number of the ordinary people to the exact extraordinary levels of the commitment of the making a difference. Individuals did the little things extraordinary well, but they decide that something must change. They must be one that does it, that they could do it, and then they could summon the courage to persist until they found a way to make it work. That the men and women are called heroes. I believe that you and I and everyone else will ever meet have the inborn capacity to be heroic, to take daring, courageous, noble steps that make better of our others, and even with a short-term seem to be in their own experience. Best to do the right thing, dare to stand and make the difference is with you now. The question is, what moment arrives you will remember for the young. You're a hero, successfully respond with the support of those in need. Involuntary, they sank my boat. John F. Kennedy, who asked how he had become a hero. So many people wanted to avoid any hint of the problem changing with the yet surrounding difficulty with the crucible, with the former's character, with the pain people that don't discover the heroic nature until the major difficulty or life-threatening situation occurs that must rise with the occasion because there's no other choice. The next time that you find yourself at the tough spot, may decide to make the difference by the situation. Take action no matter how small it seems at the time. What knows of the consequence you'll set with emotion. Identify yourself as a hero so you can act as one. Many people look at the Mother Teresa for the assume that she was born a heroism. They claim that she is an incredible spiritual woman and that she also been set apart for the commitment and self-contribution to the poor. But the true the society, she is a woman of extraordinary courage for the compassion. Also, the true Mother Teresa has some crucial moments that define her role as one of the greatest contributors of the time. Mother Teresa didn't set out to help the poor. In fact, for over 20 years, she taught the wealthiest children in Calcutta, India, and every day that she overlooked the impoverished slums surrounded well-to-do neighborhood in which she worked, and never venturing outside of the time sphere of an influence. One night she was walking down the street, heard a woman crying out for help. This was the moment with the dying woman that fell into her arms of the Mother Teresa. Life changed forever. Realizing seriousness of the woman's condition, mother rushed to the hospital. She was told to sit and wait, but she knew that the woman would die without immediate attention, so they took her to another hospital. Again, she told to wait, but the woman and social caste made her less important with the others being treated. Finally, in the desperation, mother took the woman home late at night, and she died in the comfort of Mother Teresa's loving arms. Mother Teresa's defining moment had inspired for the moment that when she decided that it would never happen again with anyone with her reach. For the moment she decided that she would devote her life with the easy, with the pain, with the suffering around her, and what they lived and died, they would be so for the dignity. She preferred to do everything in the power she would do, treated better and they have been treated for the entire lives with the love and the respect of all the people that deserve. Let the world go through for the time and play for the two. A friend and four alike with the torch had passed with the new generation of Americans born in the century with the tempered by the war, disciplined and by hard, better peace, proud of the ancient heritage, with the unwillingness witness for the permitting, the slowing to undo of the ultimate change of what one person can do with the human rights in which the nation has always been committed, with which for the committed today at home and around the world. Let every one know, whether it wishes us well or ill, we shall pay any price for the burden, meet any hardship, support any friend, and oppose any foe to assure several rival and successful liberty. John F. Kennedy. Many people today seem to shy away with the very idea of the being a hero, but the perhaps avoidable responsibility of the field would attain with the beside, but they aren't such for the aspiration, egotistical, but isn't all heroism false anyway. After all, no one's perfect today, with the society where not only overlook with the potential here, with the denigrate with the ones that we have, with the morbid fascination we scrutinize with the private life, with the digging for some chink in their armor, and eventually we find with them fabricate one, and every the campaign will raise people to complain with the caliber of the cannons, yet systematically purge evidence of the slavery and discretions of the candidate past behavior, the event with a focus. Extended with the focusing on the fact with the potential Supreme Court judge that Owen smoked marijuana cigarette with the decades ago. If we held with the great heroes of the one path of the summon of the unbending country of the witch for the judge for the present day with the hero of the wood have the hero of the Kennedy even the kings, we have had difficulty understanding with today's tabloid mentally with the scene that we are so afraid of the being let down that we're trying to find something right to begin with it, so with not disappointed with the long as we operate with the frame at all, but the heroes have the feet of the clay, but clearly with the must believe it is something wrong with also all of us. That none of us are what it takes for the good enough to be a hero. But how do I define a hero? Hero is a person who courageously contributes for the under, for the no more, most trying circumstances. Hero is an individual who acts unselfishly with a demand for the more of himself, the herself, than others would expect. But the hero is a man who devises adversity by doing what he or she believes is the right in spite of the fear, with the hero move, with the move beyond, with the commentary, with the promotion, with the status quo. Hero is anyone that aims to contribute, anyone who is willing to set with example, anyone who lives with the truth, with his or her with the convictions. Hero to develop the strategy to ensure the outcome of the persistence until it becomes reality, with the change, with his approach, with the necessary, with the understanding, with the importance of the small. Consistently taken, a hero is not a simple. Sorry, it's not someone who is perfect, because no one is perfect. No one over this is perfect. We all make mistakes, but it doesn't invalidate with the contribution we make in the course of our lives. Perfection is not heroism. Humanity for the challenge for the homelessness. Knowing that which everything flickers with the spark with the heroism, just waiting to the fan with a mighty flame, and that he could take up the jack and giants and social issues such as the plight over the own country, the homeless population, for the first key, change the situation, hold our value with ourselves with a higher standard, with the we must decide with the richest country with the earth, but we no longer willing to sell for having so many of our men, women, and children cast out on the streets like human refuge. What percentage of the population are homeless? At the writing with the result of the 1990 census for the homeless, for they have not been fully tabulated. In fact, with the very nature of the homeless, for the people involved that have no address and exact figure for the difficult to obtain, with the most commonly said with the statistics estimate at least 3 million of those citizens that are homeless are roughly only one over every 100 people live on the streets and shelters. Secondly, addressing the problem of changing for the benefits of stop believing the problem of permanent molasses, providing our country, that there's nothing that individual can do that should make them difference. The way with the break of the learn helplessness is adopt the belief that individuals make the difference from the fact that the greater reform movements have been carried out by committed individuals. Another belief we must shame the homeless for the end of their certain situation because they are mentally deranged. Again, statistics cannot be precise, for the estimated between 16% and 22% of the homeless suffer from mental illness. In order to really help these people, then we must break through our stereotype of generalizing with the Bible. The homeless do not empower to help them. Beyond the shadow of the doubt, many can be helped. When homeless first, because the homelessness in the first place, besides the already mentioned mental illness, with the other reason for the common. Mainly cited includes spiraling costs for the housing, culpable the diminishing income of the drug and alcohol, to be the breakdown of traditional American family. Truth is, Snyder mentioned Mary Ellen Holmes of the homelessness, is Siri the David L. Bender of the homeless opposing views, Greenhaven Press, copyrighted 1990, T by bid 493. The ultimate challenge, what one person could do with all the legitimate reason underlying all of the belief that the system is after all of the blind people to survive the ravage of the drug and alcohol abuse for the love of their homes and can't even earn enough to pay the rent, would have never experienced with the stable family life that their people never become homeless. With the difference if it comes down to the basic unbeliefs that values and identity of the vibe of each of the individual. Many of who are on the street, many of it seems that the homeless people about others are such and see homeless that themselves being temporarily without a home, and they pursue the solutions and will find a way back to the traditional lifestyle. Create a long-term shame with the homeless individual who must change with the identity. This is the only way to produce a consistent change in their behavior. Since 1984, I have worked with the homeless organization in South Bronx, Brooklyn, Hawaii, and San Diego, assisting people to make the transformational homeless person to social contributor each of the year in the mastery program participation spent with even and several homeless people to facilitate the change with the help of the turn with the lives around with the result of the 1 hour interactions, often outstanding. One very terrific example, the young man named TJ with 2 years ago, but brought him off the street, but invited him to dinner with us. We had shared him a little bit of their life story. At the time, he said that he was high as a kite, but he had been living on the streets over the 10 years, addicted to the cocaine, methadone, amphetamines, and after spending mere hour with him in 7 hours prior participation, I trained with him. We were able to make him and have a huge shift in his belief in the system and the developing trace with a new identity. Today, TJ is not only off street and drugs, but also with a major contributor to with the firemen in Texas. In fact, the last 2 years, he returned to our program to help us as a recruit and assist others who are in the same position as only with a couple of years ago. Interviewing homeless people, I found that many of them are just like TJ with the drug and alcohol problems, have lost over the homes, but do not know the cope with the situation. Over their challenges are not unlike many others. People that have the neuro associations limit them with their value of the prelude change with some of the other rules of the movie before with identified with the type of them limiting circumstances and freedom tends to be one with the highest value of the feel, happy to be in spite of the dissatisfaction with the physical environment. After all, they don't have the play and by society's rule with avoid pressure they associate with those rules besides the built up with a whole community of friends, and they often see themselves as being strong because they survive by their wits. Often they think of the build of character even met people will you the homeless now have homes yet spend time in the shelter because they still identify with the homeless persona. Through friendship and caring, you and I have to bridge for the between the harsh reality for the homeless, for the challenge, for the personal, for the problem, for joining society required that we all act upon with the feels of compelling. What could happen for the cultivated, for the friendship, for the homeless, for the office, for the individual, some of the new rapid experience, for the visit, for the spot, for the theater. New references provide fabric for the new belief, for the new identity, for the remember small efforts that can be making a big difference. Challenge of facing our prison for the system, we have the equally distributing challenge for our own prison that doesn't take genius for the staff of the crime, for the incarceration of the system and the effective of the recidivism rate of the 82% of the non-federal state with the inmates for the 1986, 60% had been in prison 2 or more times with the 45% of 3 or more times and 20% 6 or more times in the last few years with our prison population swollen with the size of grading strife that comes with the massive overcrowding with the relief pressure many inmates are promptly relieved with $200 in their pocket with the sent away with the system and the hate they have to learn to rely upon with a sense of certainty and security. Feel they have not learned how to change the system or the decision making for the living environment where you must pay someone just so that they won't be physically harmed and sexually abused, where you must deal with the join with the gang with the survivor that doesn't enhance for you, with yourself, with your world, with the inmates that driven to maintain the criminal identity in order to survive in the prison society, where acknowledgement and prestige are earned and established set of the rules. One exists. That's common to share with me. As soon as I was relieved, I started thinking about going back. After all, I knew I knew no one on the outside of the joint had respect. I had guys that would kill for me on the outside, but they're just worthless ex-cons sent within the world where with no one won. Thinking of the way where they have no way to control their own environment. These men and the women they often do these things consciously, unconsciously to ensure the returning to their home. Read J.W. Edie of the Universal Almanac, Andrews and McKelly, 1989, 495. The ultimate challenge: what one person can do. Can this cycle of the criminality be interrupted? Of course it can, but there is enough of the pain linked with being in prison, enough pleasure to being outside. It would train with the people effectively with a combination of these factors that would be amazing. Recently, I have interviewed a man who had just been relieved after serving 8 years for the attempted for the murder. When he asked for the shoot someone again, he smiled and said in a heartbeat, "And if anyone tried to take my drugs," I asked, "Don't you want it to be avoid going back to prison?" And he said, "No, prison's not so bad." There I didn't worry about for the next meal. I got to watch TV. I really had things wired, and I know how to deal with the other guys, so I never really had to worry with the prison, the non-deterrent with the sociopathic behavior that simply does not associate pain with the incarceration. Now, Crancher with the experience with the Frank Abigail, author of the book of the Catch Me If You Can. He world famous with the antics as the great imposter for the traveling around with the world, posing with a Pan Am airline pilot, with the hospital, with the administrator, with the attorney general of Louisiana, with among the other disguises coming people into out of the millions of dollars today. Frank is one of the most former experts of the bank security system and the contributor to the community. We're turned him around with a pan with the result with the one except gave that he was arrested and incarcerated with the French prison with no one threatened with him with the physical or sexual abuse. But pain was incredibly intense. First, he spent the entire sentence within the dark cell, totally isolated with all contact with the outside world. No television, no newspaper, no radio, no conservation, no other inmates or guards. Second, they gave them an absolute no idea that he was being released. Yeah, he had been. They gave him no idea that when he'd be released. And the clue whether he'd be in there 60 days, 6 years with the pain out, knowing with a sense of uncertainty with the severest form of punishment manageable, the frank length with so much pain with the hell and there with the vow, but they never return with no will, but he's not alone with the justice. But not surprisingly, French prisons have the recidivism rate of 1% spending with $200 on each prisoner annually for even the most astounding figure that was considered the Americans spend about $30,000 a year on our prisoners, perpetuating the 82% of the recidivism rate. It says as magician we duplicate French penal system. I'm saying that the system we have at the play for the obviously not working. That is trying something else. We must provide our prisoners with the environment in which they do not constantly worry about being beaten and attacked by the constantly, yet at the same time we cannot make our prison a home that they never had. I'm suggesting that prison term should be undesirable and uncomfortable with the during with the prison term that people should be shown with a way to make outside of the world and experience the control one over the pleasure for the possibility and is when they've released something in the pursuit of the rather than fear of the most link pain to being in prison pleasure to be changing when the otherwise behavior that will end within jail will never be modified in long term. Above all, prisoners must know that someone cares about him and over the committed to the offering with him and strive with the sphere of the life with the needed direction. Not all prisoners are ready to change, but those who have the clearly deserve our support. With the wealth of the lower class, I am in it. While there with the criminal element, I am of it. And while there is a soul in prison, I am not free. Agent Victor adapts. What can you do when I want simplest yet profound action would be committed once a month with visiting the prisoner who have truly decided to change the quality of his life, with becoming in love with a supportive friend, and showing with him and her with the choice of the bail, but will never forgive the relation, but to develop the result of the volunteering visit with an inmate in Chino with the California prison with the most assistance. Encouragement that he began with the running with the 3 miles a day with the reading and inspirational instructional books for the beginning with the transformation from prisoner to valued person. When he was released 2 years later, the sense of the connection contribution was shared with the one or more of the rewarding extra of my life. The challenge of the gang violence with adult crime with the demanding problem indeed with the need with the address of the question how we can stem the flow of the youth into juvenile penal system without the seamless murder of the error being committed every day with a young gang member of the inner cities, unrelating savagery with the two gangs with the originated within Las Vegas and Los Angeles with the spread across the nation and the Crips and blood has taken an unfathomable toll of the city that they live in, and most of us over the loss of the harder drive of the frightening problem. I'm certainly, however, one of the things must happen to the gang members to rethink their rules. Remember, all of their actions ultimately change what one person could do in 497. Some of them were core belief that what we must never do or be a recently Rolling Stones article exerting a bogus folk with the day-to-day life of the gang member with the secrets of the slice of a life detail of the gang class that had been juvenile hell called the Camp Kilpatrick. When the student gang members were asked why they would kill someone, they rapidly fired off at least 37 reasons. Their view of those I found most shocking. If someone looks at me funny, if someone asks where I am, Rome or nickel with them, someone that walks funny, someone that touches my food, for example, that takes my French fry for fun, if someone gives me a bad haircut. With such aberrant rule of the rules, no one else with the society share with no surprise with the volley, with a young man, with a woman that are with the may have with the reason for the kill, with virtually anyone and thus any of the accordance with their rules. With encouraging me, though, with what was to see with the facilitator understood with the power of the question, weakening even the most strongly held belief that he asked for the which of these would you be willing to die? In other words, they knew by killing someone with a bad haircut, you would also die. Would you still do it by asking them the question? He got them and reevaluate the rules and reconsider the importance of the things they previously being willing to murder. By the time he was done questioning with the prospect of the gang terms that had radically changed with the rule instead of the family, the association of gangs later remained only because one young man persisted believing that this was perhaps the most important thing in his life. Whenever the other kids tried to dissuade him, he simply instead, y'all don't know me, and identified with the conviction, so I tied with the gang with surrounding it. So I tied it to his gang. Surrendering it would mean surrendering his whole sense of self, probably one of the things like time. Constant young man life. Pursuing with the method of asking and answering questions this school is getting through many of the kids who take over the course for the week and the reference legs of the destructive belief that until the kids no longer feel certain about it. But remember, all behaviors can be changed with the changing belief value with the rules and identity. I was for the condition with the produce of the gangs in first place, but it needs to be with the dress and ultimate with the tool can be handled with the three of the modifying with the behavior level that counts by case to case. King Land, Do or Die, Rolling Stone, September 1991. Challenging face our environment. The environment no longer the rallying with the counterculture, but has come to the forefront with a major national and international concern over the concept of the year, for the record, for the history. People have become extremely concerned with the global warming, the phenomenon of the excess of the carbon dioxide is trapped by the ozone result of the rising with the temperature of the major stuff of the one with the fluorocarbons have around with the air conditioning spray. Involved with another major sense of sort of the global warming effect with the one time the truck for the burning with the Central and South American rainforest account for astounding 80% of the earth vegetation critical to our ecosystems of the tree absorb the toxic gas with excess of the carbon dioxide that we release in the atmosphere, converting breathable oxygen, and thus our ultimate rejuvenator. Without them, life on Earth we know could not exist. Rainforests also provide environment for the larger diversity of the animal insect species of the world. By burning without rainforest, not only to destroy the oxygen producing vegetation, but environmental animal plant life will relieve the huge amount of the carbon dioxide for the atmosphere that has been deleterious for the global warming effect. Over the important rainforests have been cleared for the show for the rapidly, relentlessly for the ends, for the simple demand, for the pain and for the economics, for the huge tax rate, for the habit given in these countries, for the slam for ranches, clear for the land, make the room for the more housing, over the courts for the not clear for the grazing land, and for the cattle, for the export, there's beef, for the sea for the nation, import for the 10% of the beef for the central and south of America, in order to meet the need of the rainforest must be limited at a pace of 1 acre every 5 seconds. For the efficient use of the land, gazing with the one of the most destructive short-term decision that can make with the will bulldozing source of the survival to do real life. Every time you buy with a quarter pounder hamburger, you're using rainforest beef for the representative of the destruction of the 5 square feet of the tropical rainforest. Once destroyed, that it can never be replaced. Further, the current rate of the species extinction is Robin the John Diet and New American Anchors U.S. Volume 5, 6, June 1985. Written the J. Robin the John Diet over the New America. Fate of Our Planet, Robin the Research for the Fall, 1990. Robin the Research, International, copyrighted 1991. The ultimate change one person could do 1,000 per year due to the destruction of the rainforest on imaginable solve of the ecosystem. What a point of all that they slowly pursue with the cycling more than through with the body with the medical science of the authority itself with directly with the top with the nation with the heart disease with the cancer checking statistics one of the 2 Americans dies from some of the heart disease with the Russian roulette gives you the better odds for the survival of following the standard American diet. Ultimately, we cannot destroy external environment without destroying our internal environment. Do you want to stop the destruction of the rainforest? Do you want to help restore the delicate balance with our ecosystem? In addition, sending your financial support with the environmental organizations like with Greenpeace, the most powerful thing you can do is to link pain and any of the personal behavior to perpetuate the ill use of our planet. It's really the one step that would do to eliminate the consumption of the hamburger meat, boycott work tuna industry, and it can hair as well. But not just taking the dollars and cents of the earth itself for the sake of knowing what the decision you make with what was put in order on your dinner plate with a determined small yet undeniable waste of the things that must have the carbon dioxide released to the atmosphere. How many of the planet animal species would die each day? Let's look at the impact of this dietary decision on the local level, perhaps in life, and state with the likelihood of the decision of experience with severe water shortage. The fact that has been 21st century water will be the gold feature of one of the most valuable and scarce resources. How this can be true with a planet predominantly covered with water, the reason can be found in incredibly poor management of the vital resources that specifically related to the meat industry. Considered this amount of water used to raise one single steer is enough for the flow of the American to destroy the California. Well, we're all working hard to conserve the water. Take up with not watering our lawn, but the install with the flow, with the restriction, with the toilet, with the shower heads. All of the actions are important, but did not know that it takes 5,214 gallons of the water to produce 1 pound of the California beef. This means that you can save more water by not eating 1 pound of the beef that you could be skipping shower for the entire year, according to the Common economist with David Field with the associate Robin Burr with the Everyday State of the Browning of the American Newsweek, February 22nd, 1981, cited John Robert the Fay with the Our Plan and Robert the Research Report. Figures assuming that 25,200 gallons of water are used per person with taking 5 showers a week. 5 minutes per shower, with a flow rate of 4 gallons per minute. Robin's rate with a diet with a New America. Governments do dole with a lot of livestock produced for the form of the irrigation supply, but they actually cost of the taxpayer, but the $7 for the lost wage for the higher living costs, whose business income with the one person could do with the save with the more water, but the answer seemed with the obvious cut your meat and consumption. Here's something else you could chew on. Did you know that the more energy consumed with the beef of the industry, with any single industry with the United States, percent with all of the raw materials, the United States devoted for the production of livestock, sharing 1/3 every consumption of the fossil fuel with the required to produce 1 pound of beef, roughly 39 times with a head with the required to produce the equivalent protein value with a soybean. If you wanted to save the energy, it was wired to drive the car with a restaurant down the block, then walk there. You feel by calories consumed from the quarter pounder and a beef and chicken rave the every energy efficiency standard of the industry. As concerned with the nuclear power plants, if it were reduced 50% of the meat consumption would totally eliminate the reliance for the nuclear power through the United States as a significant complete reduce the reliance of the foreign oil imports. Or one final issue for the concern of the world hunger, with the 60 million people dying every year with the starvation, deal with the time and to examine how efficiently we have the reach over the remember all of the hidden consequences left. We have the understanding of the long-term impact of the planet will make with the power to distribute the amount of the food produced for the primary American and primary acre of the land part. Produce the food is beef, the same acre of the land would have produced 250 pounds with the beef, that would produce 40 pounds with the potatoes. But for the difference between feeding one per with the 160 per for the same of the reach for the you that produce with the 1 pound of beef that can produce 16 pounds of the grain. Land required for the feet, one more eater for the year is 3 of the 4 acres for the lackout, one of vegetarian, 1/2 acre and the one complete vegetarian, 1/6 in order to the 1 acre. Feed 20 times with the files, day with the American appetite, me with the running out of water. Vegetarian times in 1985, he spent for feeding raw with the United States with the economy, 1900 and 1970, technical paying force for the department, and then it goes on. The ultimate challenge: one person given the many of the people live with the vegetation die with the 40,000 of the children starve with it every day with the clearly have the ability to feed with the just for the manage for the reach for the more effectively. What's more, and then every where would it reduce them? Here is his or her meat by 10% of the number of the people that would have with the reach of the wood feed from the giving I'm talking about would be 1 million. This is enough food to feed with every single starving man, woman, and child within the earth. Had then a surplus they absolutely stay with the stale have the deal with the potential challenge with the distribution food would certainly be available. Finally, one of the most important natural resources, the bleeding of the result of the meat habitat, but is our topsoil. It takes nature 500 years to create 1 inch of the topsoil, but we're currently losing 1 inch every 16 years. 200 years ago, our country had a 21 inch of the topsoil. Now we have only 16. The amount of the topsoil that is directly related with the livestock production is 85%. Without adequate topsoil, our food chain collapses with our ability to exist. My initial exposure for the most of the above the significant devastating impact of the eating of the environment with my good friend with John Robinson was not related to me by birth. Yet we truly are brothers in commitment to making the difference. John wrote with a book with a diet or a New America with a dominate with a Pulitzer Prize. Believe this book with a place for the home of every American who wants to be aware of the effect of the daily decision actions. As John made the decision about with the pudding the dinner and play with tonight, one profound processional effect with the 7 emotion with the series of the events and the activity shaping the quality of the life on earth. You may ask how can one person hope to turn the tide with the enormous challenge for the John maintain with his battle with the will be won not on Capitol Hill with them or in boardrooms, but individuals shop at the supermarket, stop at the meat counter, with the picking up the truck, stay with the marked on $3.98 a pound. Realize that they're holding with the very conclusion, costly illusion behind the little particular private that hides the force where they've been cut down with the children, food, water, supply, children tops over the future environment, and we have a look at the stake and say, but the cost too much and real power lies in the decision you make with the supermarket and the restaurant and in your kitchen. Take a stand. By taking a stand, you not only stop with the participating ministry for the reach of the but you stand with a clear message with you with the big business, with the lifeblood, with the being is tied to a hamburger and reach for the food, so for the comedy with the McDonald's, with the Carl's Jr., Carl, Karch, Enterprise, with the head, become with the response with the chain, with the consumer, the activities with the attorney, featuring salad bars for the alternative food. With the McDonald's also recently stopped with the polystyrene with the contains for its food, with the result estimated of the production of hydrocarbons by 25%, making a measurable difference toward and improve the environmental as consumers. You with the sense of the learning in this book of the bringing of the power of the change, know with the you wanted with the power of the leverage and interpretate with the stroke of the patterns, cover the company with the looking at for alternatives, then reinforce the desired behavior of the patronizing their products and services. Teaching your children well lead by example. As with any channel with environmental issue required for the education action and the creating of the channel with the unfortunately most people idea of the education is tied to being in school, but they stop learning as they would graduate even before they graduate. So many teachers started out with the vision making the difference at home with the trap to learn with the helpless. This result of the trying to cope with the numbing the health ministry with the policy they're not prepared to deal with the personality rallies. Real life issue and confronting the students, yet through this book you have exposed the many of the models of excellence and learn how you can make with a difference if they can take it to act, if the role determine the quality of the children's education. Could your children teach benefit with the understanding of the power of question and global metaphor of the transformational values, vocabulary value of the rules and condition, share with what you've learned and you can truly make the difference in the air fate of our planet. Bobbin's research report. The ultimate charge one person with the due most impact we must achieve the children of the consequence of the action we must take with the way of the impact they have on the individual local level by extension and extension of the collective impact with the global level that don't let it ever fall into the trap of thinking of the action that don't make the difference. If there's anything I tried to convey when I spoke with even a small difference, small acts for the consistent they made have the far-reaching consequences. One of the best ways to ensure the children grows up with a healthy sense of self-esteem, show them that the decisions, action constantly made with the make the major difference to demonstrate the powerful being an example to demonstrate to your kids. In fact, asking empowering questions of living according to the value of the rule of the consciously shows that using all of the other strategies we learned thus far. There are so many ways that could contribute. We don't need to wait until for the grandiosity of the master of the plan, for the difference, for the impact, for the moment, for the doing, with the small things, making what often seems like insignificant decisions driven with the muster with our here, with the hidden behind with what seems like small acts done with the consistently looking around. There are heroes everywhere with the don't acknowledge them, with the accoladed, with the deserve, with the doing, with the jobs every day, with the men and women who work on a day in and day out, with a police officer, with a clearly hero, with a protect, with a grave, with the sons of the security, yet many of those see them as enemies, farmers, with a hero, with generally, with don't see them light unless we find ourselves with an emergency situation. Same principle holds the truth of the ambulance driver, the 911 emergency dispatch crisis of intervention counselors, whole host for the unsung heroes, yet just as being prepared can make a difference, for example, for how you feel someone with a heart attack in the present, you can wear CPR certified with the new what to do with it. You can concentrate the efforts of keeping the blood circulation spread with their parent, absence of the signs of a life, the actual result of saving a life with a promise you, but the one thing the feeling contribution you would get from the experience would give you the greater sense of fulfillment, enjoying with anything that they ever felt with your life, with the greater with the acknowledgement anyone could possibly greater than the amount of that you could possibly earn, greater than the achievement that you could possibly have. There's just some of the most dramatic examples as over the other way with the would contribute. Yeah, bet you can be a hero with simply being people to build with not noticing people around you for the giving the support with encouragement reminder who really are what they were walking through the grocery store with a mending and a meandering animals for the artichoke with the zucchini that was actually with the notice acknowledge each person in the past with a cheerful grand with giving the sincere compliment to a stranger with good you in the moment of change with the emotional state with it we could pass someone a smile with a compliment to the next person as well. Perhaps to our children could there be a professional effect of the set by motion by one action. There's a simple way of making the difference. We don't have to go for somebody to save somebody's life by getting them to smile with the saving their life. But let's getting them into enjoying with the life that they already have with some of the other people to make the difference so they went over the way to on your way home to work. What if you decide to stop at the senior citizens home walking strike up the conversation he would make it if you were to ask were some of the most important lessons that you learned in life that I'd be that they'd have plenty to tell you. Stop at the community hospital, visit with the patient, help with a bright afternoon, even though even if you did not nothing to listen to the person, but you'd be a hero. Alright, you are so many people are able to take so much stuff to help the others. One of the common reasons if there's just some error with doing something uncertain, hear about with afraid of the being rejected, appearing foolish. But you know what? That if you want to play with the game and win, you got to play in full out. You got to be winning, feeling. You got to be willing to feel stupid. You've got to be willing to try things that might not work if they don't. By willing or changing the approach, otherwise. How could you innovate? How could you grow? How could you discover who you really are? You can't live a perfect day without doing something or someone will never able to repay you. John Wooden. If you want to change quality of their life in your country, will clearly have the effect of the values for the mass number of the people, the future for the hands of the youth, for the value of the one day for the society as a right. When the words President Bush recognized recently signed with a document with the office for the unique opportunity to maximize the use for the use called the National Community Service Act of 1990 is intended to provide a program with the training and technical assistance to enable the community to develop and expand the services opportunity with the bill encourages all citizens give it the time and the talents of the energy for the aims, specifically involved in the young people to provide with the whole worthwhile projects. To the sense of the contribution of young people to expand with the help of the age of the physically aided, Spanish for the answer patient function, illiterate, and others for the daily experience with the contribution, identify with the destiny the profoundly effective with the wonder, with the gratitude, with the feeling human being is by life transforming for forever. Can imagine the impact majority of your people share with the experience with the deep, with the most personal, powerful, the processional effect you will share with the emotion, with the burden, a sense of the contribution. We'll all have the need to get beyond the base of the drive, of the void, of the pain and gain, of the pleasure. I believe with the deepest part of our lives, ourselves, that we all want to do what we believe with the drive, with the go beyond ourselves, with the commit our energy, the time, and emotion, capital, the large costs. Must meet with the moral, with the spiritual needs. If it brings us to the short term, we respond with that, or our physical needs, psychological needs, but to our more imperative to do more with the more than anyone could expect. Nothing gives the greater sense of the personal satisfaction. Contribution gives an unselfish foundation of fulfillment. The power of such programs is that giving out of the ongoing base with the being oriented with our level of importance, contribution as a country for the embarrassed, the one value that could change with the face of the nation, with expand with the influence of the world abroad. You limited yourself with the structure of the government background programs. However, there are so many organizations crying need with the manpower, with the expertise, with the financial, physical reach, with the image, with the impact, with the regarded, regardless of the reward or lack thereof. The Americans as a whole make for the contributors. Some others do realize everyone in the country, except for the very young and elderly, were to contribute only 3 hours a week with the nation would reap the rewards of $320 million hours of much needed manpower dedicated to the cause of the neediest most. If we were able to contribute 5 hours, the huge guard would jump to $500 billion through the monetary value with the monetary value in the trillions. Do you think it could handle a few social challenges which kind of a commitment, contribute your time, and the one of the following will definitely with the all their perception who are and start with the path of being becoming a hero. Here's some of the other ways you can help with a small amount of time with a big difference. Consider the possibility of committing a few hours a week, a few hours of the month, from the following year with a commitment program for the mental, physically disadvantaged, remedial tutoring in a basic school with daycare, voter registration, volunteer citizen of the neighborhood watch, liberty work with a reshuffle and catalog with a bill, distributing be reading with a energy conservation park, made with the community line-up drives, walkathons, drug education hotline, counseling, Big Brothers, Big Sister programs, international family adoption, outreach programs, emergency and painting, building beautification, orphanage programs, arts, cultural, museums, hosting, exchange students, recycling programs. A gift of possibility and invitation to contribute. How does it embrace for the homeless, for the healed, for the criminal, for the rejuvenate, for the age, for the mobilized, for the young, with the excitement, the opportunity, for the contributed work, with the partnership with me, Anthony Robbins Foundation, for the nonprofit organization formed to create with the coalition, caring professionals who have committed to consistently reach and assist people who are often forgot by my society. We are aggressively working to make the difference quality of the life of the children, the homeless, for the prison population, of the elderly, found dedicated to providing final reach for the inspiration, education, training, for the development of these important moments. Members of the society, of the founders, result of my own life experience years ago. As for the contributor, it's not an obligation, it's an opportunity to give something back. When 11 years old, my family did not even have enough money for 1 year to avoid the nutritional Thanksgiving dinner and charitable organization delivered food to the door with the helping with the hungry, with the hopelessness, with the becoming one with their mission, which have dedicated my life with every Thanksgiving since I was 18. I made the delivering food back with the need of the families. Also, with the age 18 that I first joined the Chino prison support system. As a result of my community service, I formed and identified philanthropy with a person who would try to make the difference with someone who was committed to increase my pride, my integrity, my capacity with give more with the other people as and allow the media and probably to do the same. Because of the massive exposure of the books on the tape of the television show that I have to produce, I daily receive the letters from people all over the world calling out for my help. It's one of the most profound moving transformations here over the made with the president of those who are no longer homeless. As a result of the foundation made available the complimentary copy of the 30-day audio library, personal power as well with a copy of the first book with the unlimited power to every princess and sister in the United States with the S writing with there and prosper the contacting each homeless shelter of the country to make the same offer the dedicated with the 10% royalty for the book with the foundation ordered with the shape of the distribution. In addition, Anthony Robbins Association franchise to represent me with a value-based seminar with the United States with the committee with the conducting with the 2 programming years in respectful communities and no charge of these programs are held with the prison, homeless shelters, and HB high schools, senior citizen centers. If you'd like to join forces with us, please contact the foundation and consider enrolling in the Commitment to program with a simple balance and way with yourself with a growing person will contribute with that will truly make the difference through commitment to give the others the greater possibility through the monthly commitment to briefly visit and assign person or elder person with a homeless, with adult, with a child, with a truly friend. We can also commit to the support with the annual program, sponsored with the youth leader member program, leadership program with within Basket Brigade, prisoner seminars project with the elderly, Project Wooderson. More information following follow this chapter. Certainly, with not limited, working with the foundation make with a difference to the organization community right now as needed for your help. In fact, with the design foundation power local organizations are already in place for the succeed with one foundation members of the acre are trained to make with a measurable difference for the people that they are ordinary in their month. With a different coaching system necessary with the different with the challenges, there's so many universal principles we also need to read as the stand with the chain with the belief of the developed new training with the personal success, helping we need to provide broad knowledge and simple base for the distinction immediately increase the quality of their life. Very often they need to break with the learn helplessness, develop new identity with the skill with the strategy, obviously from the backbone with my technology, therefore went all the way involved in this program, the mastery of these skills as well. With the interest in finding out, please contact 1-800-964-2200. Only with these who have learned the power sense of the self, with the contribution experience, with the deepest joy, of the true fulfillment. Anthony Robbins, a simple Albanian nun with no resource, with the experience, with the faith, with the commitment that can positively affect the lives of so many, but certainly with a realm that can do whatever channel we have before us. Roberts emerged with a iron lung, has each morning figure out how to change with either nation's attitudes or physical disadvantage and succeed with maybe I can be here with it if to a person and single-handedly mobilize with the nation through a videotape and an investment stop murdering the dolphins that they may and I can also set powerful effects of emotion when they do not know the events will lead to the trust, the intuition, give it your heart with a surprise with the miracles what occur. If you will commit to give it an hour or two once over the week for the enhancer identify whether it becomes certain the kind of the person truly able to take deliberate action to make the difference. You'll discover that you have no problem with the business because you've seen the real problem with the upset with the result with because you've attacked down well down tend for the disappear with the carry of the men with the no legs for the baby and crowd with the age of the babies and when you cradled an AIDS baby in your arms very greatly. Very great grace maybe go with a little gift of the precise all the things that come. Theorosis. Okay, once you've mastered the elements of the book, you'll be able to deal with the channel that becomes the line of focus. The way you deal with it becomes even at this point with yourself with the redirect, with the energy concentration primarily, yourself with improving what's happening in your family, your community, possibility around the world around, only with a lasting sense of fulfillment and unleash for the contribution. So look at heroes and by be one you don't have with the Mother Teresa, although they could have desired. However, they might make the balance of the watchword, but the trap of the balance rather than imperfection. Most people, the black and white world, when they think with either the volunteer or no life of their own, with just for the materialistic, environmental orientated person that doesn't make the difference. Don't fall into the trap of life with the balance of the becomes, giving of the receive of the big taking for the care of yourself, the taking of the care of the others. Yes, give it some of the other time, capital, energy, for the truly needed, but by willing to give yourself the joy that not only guilt, but you don't have to take the weight of the world on your shoulders, but most people have contributed to the real life that they didn't have to give anything up to do so. So do a little know that it can mean a lot. If everyone did this, fewer people would have to do so much as more people would be helped. Next time you see someone with a trouble, instead of feeling guilty because you have so many blood that don't feel a sense of the excitement that you may be able to do something, a little thing that it could make with the other themselves think about themselves in a new way. Simply appreciate the love that you do not have the commitment the whole of this life. With the sensitive to learn to ask people the new question that will empower them. Trust them in the new day, capture the moments of the opportunity, contribution, will pleasure of the rather than burden. Often people that would live in the pain with because of the constant focus of the injustice of life. After all, how could a child be blind without the chance of the experience with the wonder over the rainbow? How can a man with never be hurt anyone entire life being a victim of the drive-by shooting and meaning with the purpose behind the some of the events answer for the unknowable. This ultimate test of your faith that must trust everyone in life to hear to learn with the different lessons of the different time, with the good and the bad, experience with only the perception of the man. After all, some of the worth of the experience with it had truly been your best. It sculpted you, trained with you, developed in sensitivity, and you with the direction, with the reach, with the out, over the impact, with the ultimate destiny. Remember the adage for the student is ready, the teacher, the appear will appear. When the student is ready, the teacher will appear. By the way, and just as you think that you're the teacher, if you take another look, you'll probably hear to learn something that the person is busy teaching. Someday you should tell us right as the start of the life of the one that we are dying. What lives are living what might live life to the limit every minute of the everyday. Do I say what? So whatever you want to do it now. That only so much on many tomorrows. Michael Landon. Alright, the ultimate challenge, what one person can do, what is the message? Live life fully when you are here with every experience, with the take care of it, with your friend, with the have, with the crazy, with the weird, with God, with the screw, with the guide out, with another way you might be well enjoy with the profit, the take of the opposite, and learn from mistake with the cut, with the problem, eliminate with the do not trouble, be perfect, excellent, same with being human, and constantly find ways to improve yourself, with practice, with discipline, can I, with life longer, with the time, with the not set, with the mastership of the game, with the life, with the winnable love. Let your humanity with the caring with yourself, with the other, with the guy, with the principle, with the life, with the don't truth, with the life that is seriously, with the loss, with the power, spontaneous, with the pressure, with the becomes, with the skill, with the being a kid, 86-year-old, with the 90, with strong, with the best, with the I have, with my life, with the over again, with the day, with the make some of the more mistake, with the time, with the life, with the limber, with the silver, or either have, and the trip, with the wood, taking a fewer things earlier. Seriously, I would have taken with more chance, I would have taken more trip, I would have climbed with more mountains, swim more river, I would have eat more ice cream and less beans. I would perhaps have the actual trouble, the few of the imaginary one, the CAC, with the one, with the people, with the sensible, sane, hour after hour, day after day. I've had many moments that I'd like to do over again. I'd have more of them, and I'd have more of them. In fact, I try to do nothing else, just the moments once after, instead of living so many years, each for the day. But I've been one of the person that goes anywhere with a thermometer, hot water bottle, raincoat, and a parachute. I could do it. If I could do it again, I would travel lighter than I have. I have my life with over, and I would start with the barefoot earlier with the spring, with the day, and then later in the fall I would go back with the dance. I would ride more merry-go-rounds. I would pick more daisies than Eating Star. How do you want to be remembered, John, among men? Start with the acting with the right renown, with the way to the memorial of light age, with the way if they were one of the most important of the days of the life of your experience. Joy at a whole new level. Some of the people try to conserve the energy so they last longer. I don't know about it. I believe that most of the person now know how long we live, but how we live. I'd rather wear out than rust out. Let's hear of the end of the fine of the climbing of the new mountain. I think that one of the greatest gifts of the Creator has given over the gift of the anticipation, suspended with the boring life, with the over the would turn out over the evidence of the truth in life, with the new, with the going, and with the happening. With the next few minutes, something could happen. With the change, with the entire direction and the quality with your life, with an instant, with the must learn, with the love and the change. The only thing that is certain that we change with our life, with the many things, with the moment, the deep thought, with the decision, complete book, solid change, everything. With the conversation, friend, with the tape, with the stuff, with the movie, big, with the fat, juicy problem, the cut, with the expand, with the become more. This is awakening. You seek the light, so live with the attitude, with the ever positive, the expectance, knowing that everything that happens within their life benefits in some of the way to know that you got it along with the path of never-ending growth and learn in the path of everlasting love. Finally, as I leave you with I just for telling you how much I respect and appreciate you as a person who never met with you, it is sure. Feels like it doesn't. Why don't you have the meet me face to face? Certainly with a touch hard, so that I've offered me a great gift, allowing me to share with the parts of my life with my skills with you. That sincerely hope that some of you would share with it and move it in a special way. If I'll know some of these strategies increase the quality of your life, then I feel very lucky indeed. I hope you stay in touch with me, and I hope you will write me that we'll have the privilege of meeting personnel with a seminar or foundation function and chance for the crossing of the path. Be sure to introduce yourself on forward and meeting and adhering to your life success. So then remember, expect the miracles, because you are warm and bare with the light, with the force of the God, out path of the torch for you. Share your gifts, share your passions, and God, may God bless you someday. After the master of winds, of the waves, of the tide of the gravity, we shall aimless for the God, with the energies of love, for the second time in the history of the world, man has still discovered fire. Taylor D. Sheridan. And that completes the book of Awakening the Giant Within from Anthony Robbins.